Hi everybody, you're listening to the Hisessions Hawai podcast where we talk about everything local and beyond. I'm John Yamasato, your host, and joining me today is Kyle Shimabukuro, Devon Nekoba, and I'll introduce our guests in a second. Before we begin, let me remind the listeners of all the ways they can stay in touch with the show. There is Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, all at Hisessions. You can go to SoundCloud, YouTube, and Apple Podcasts to listen to the podcast. And of course, you can email us at hisessions@yahoo.com. If you'd like to help the show and get more music on the channel, please go to patreon.com and donate, Patreon. You'll get more involved with the show. And we have a special live coming up, which our patrons will be invited to. It's going to be limited seating here. Devon's going to want to come to it. So that announcement's
He's got nothing going on right now.
Yeah. So, yeah.
So we'll get to that. Anyway, I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No problem. Okay.
Wait, when is it supposed to be?
It's going to be in September.
You guys totally local boys. When is that?
Yeah.
No, what, when?
We don't know nothing.
You
John
don't
just
know
springs
nothing.
it on
Yeah,
us all the time.
And John, it's amazing because you're so like NPR, like, and now we're going to go live to a cafe in Liechtenstein where Hans Strovanovanovic will be playing a dulcimer strung with scrotum hairs. You know, it's good.
That's my only mode, man.
That's
It's my
good,
only
though.
mode.
It's good.
All right. Kupu Landscaping. Call Kevin Yokomura, 808-722-8685 for a free estimate, or go to kupulandscaping.com.
Now, let me say, for a guy who is not Filipino,
Yeah.
he is an awesome landscaper. I just want to say that.
Oh, you know.
I know of him, and I come from a long line of books. As a matter of fact, I'm a chapter and a half away from being a full book, and this guy's good. He's good. Seriously.
All right. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
You know what I
And
mean?
you know.
Kevin is
How
good.
come he every time take the job, bro? I don't know. Kayot. Him again. But no, he's really good. I have a couple of friends. Friend, such a strong word. I have a couple of acquaintances that use him, and he's really good. Really good.
Yes.
That's good
Yeah.
to hear.
Yeah,
Good to hear.
yeah, for
Kevin's a good guy.
Yeah. Well, I never met him.
Yeah.
So, and if I did, I'd say like, "I Filipino, bro. Stop stealing the jobs." Anyway.
All right. Fort Ruger Market. We're going to eat Fort Ruger Market. In a
Yeah,
little
after
bit.
this podcast.
Yeah. And of course, you can find Kyle at highlifeclothing.com. And now our guest, Mr. Gregg Hammer.
Blah blah blah. Anyway, thank you for having me. I know you said
can
don't touch
the table.
anything.
No. You can touch the table. Just don't hit
I
the
get
table.
nervous because it's like people think I'm so outrageous, and I'm really not. So thank
No,
you.
okay.
Oh no, we'll get to that.
No, I feel like people throw the term genius around a lot.
Oh, wow.
But when it
Wow,
comes to
you're strong there, John.
I thought you was going to go with legend. But
Yeah.
No,
Dude,
and don't go with goat because like I said, I come from a predominantly book family. My grandfather would be goat. He's not a goat. He smell like a goat, but he's not. Yeah.
But you've been all over the islands for many years, and just just like made me laugh so much.
Well, I appreciate that, man.
So when I heard you were coming in, I was just super excited.
I was, I had nothing to do, so I figured why not kill a couple of hours and go talk to you guys.
I didn't know you were that close to Devon.
I'm
though.
not close to him at all. I don't even know Devon, to be
Oh, I
honest.
got him here. Left the trail.
No, what he said was, hey, you want to be on Hisessions, and I'm familiar with the show. I mean, I was doing prison ministry, and you have a huge following in prisons. And so when he said, and I said, oh, yes, that's John Yamasato's thing. He said, yes, I remember John. And when we were talking earlier, I thought you were a heck of a lot younger than when we first met.
Oh, I have a boyish charm to me.
You do. You look like you bathe in oil the whole day, if I'm being honest. And then I know
Kyle.
Kyle, is it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So, I know Kyle. We had met. I'm sure in passing. I think I was working at. I think I was working at FEMNU.
That's right.
And you came and
Yeah.
you put $1 in my little thing.
Yeah.
And it was I was working my way through med school.
You did a great job that
Thank
night.
you.
Very
Yeah.
memorable.
Well, I was.
Yeah.
I was trying to audition for the show in Vegas, but when they saw me naked, they were like, "Oh!" So I didn't make it. It wasn't a good thing.
But and then how do you know Devon? Through broadcasting? Because you guys are both in the same industry.
Let's go to the beginning. See, this is where he turns red. No, watch him. I don't know if you can pan over because it's a stand.
No, you can see him. You can see him. I can do it.
Listen, high tech.
Yeah.
Believe me.
Yeah.
I take one static camera. That's it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And we got to move like. So I met Devon.
Was it FM 100?
No,
before?
bro, dude.
Sorry.
I met Devon, and when I say this, he's gonna remember.
Oh no.
I have the fettuccine Alfredo.
Oh.
He was waiting tables at Scoozy's.
Yeah.
And so I would go in a couple times a week, and so he would, and always got the order right. I mean, how can you screw up chicken?
Yeah.
But he always got it right.
Every time, so.
Right. And then I'm watching the news a couple of years later, and a mentor of mine when I was in the police department, his dad was one of the interim city councilmen, and I'm watching, and I'm really happy for the guy, and then I go, that dude is the waiter from frickin' Scoozy's, and he's going to help pass laws in the city and county of Honolulu. And wow, okay, we're in trouble. And here we are, 35 years later, and I don't know if you've been around the city, but we're in trouble. I appreciate it, buddy. Yeah. And then, then we met through radio, and we were, I can't say competitors because we always crushed you, but but somebody, and then I had gotten into the wedding entertainment business, MC, and I was working with a band and all that, and I'd been doing some music, and somebody asked me if I was going to get married, who would I choose as the person to MC my wedding? And I said, without question, Devon Nekoba. Wow. And they were like, who? And so, but Devon emceed mine and Shawnee's wedding, and
really, and they're still married.
So that's good. That's good. It's a good thing.
Yeah, Devon emceed my wedding too.
Did you?
It's not John, because John didn't.
No, you kind of emceed my wedding.
Yeah.
Well, he commandeered John's wedding.
I figured he went
over.
up to do the bonsai toast and was like,
no, because they didn't have it.
I had nobody.
Really?
So Devon was like,
John, come on, bro. Hoku Award winner.
No, he just was like, nah, I don't. It's fine. There's no, and I'm like, dude, just.
Yeah.
Let me do the thing, please, because
right.
it's a mess right now, and we need to get this moving.
So I have a bone to pick with you.
Me?
I do.
Okay.
Because I've been nominated for Hoku 3 times.
Okay.
And you've won. And during that era,
out the gate.
I don't kid you.
Yeah.
Him and what's that? Who's that? I don't remember the name of the guy you're with, but he was crying. I couldn't get tickets to your show, you creep. You got one coming. Anyway, no, I love Jake. I love Jake.
Yeah.
Oh, Jake, come on, Jake. I knew you when you were, before you was like pokey hair, Jake.
Yeah.
I knew you before Mahu's called you Jakey. So, but yeah, you guys won, and I was always the guy. Well, it's just an honor to be nominated.
Oh man.
But that's okay. That's okay. If you won, great. Great.
Well, thank you.
It's fine. I noticed you don't have it up here.
Well, we do.
We do it.
Yeah, it's right here.
Oh,
Carl had to find it.
No, John had it in his closet.
Yeah.
well, that's what you do with stuff.
Yeah, and then the plastic wrapping on it was never taken off, so it stuck to everything.
Well, that makes sense because, honestly, I think, and this is from someone who has been in media for a long time, those mean something in the industry. But they don't mean anything to, like, you go to the mall and you're sipping coffee. It doesn't mean anything to the people that come up and go, oh, John, I listen to your music and, we consummated our marriage to it. And I have, when I was working with my band, a lot of guys, the show at that time, we were at Zanzibar.
Oh yeah, Zanzibar.
Yeah. And the reputation of that show, thanks to Rory, and to his credit, he was smart in saying it. He just went on one day and he said, "Hey, guarantee you go to Gregg's show, guarantee you're gonna get some tonight." And many people have come up and said, "Oh, this is my kid," or "Oh, bro,
it's my kid, Gregg."
Yeah. It was right about your show, bro, because that night, So so that was. I mean, it just. It's the people that really make us.
Yeah.
And
well,
and like
it's nice to be get stuff like that. But then, in this business, as you they can all go away like that.
Right.
And it's just a matter of you got to keep working and keep doing stuff.
True.
Because you're just as good as your last thing.
Right.
And so I don't put it up normally because I want to just keep looking forward. What's the
Sure you do.
Yeah.
I saw you look over your shoulder twice and like, take a look at that. It's funny you should say that because, I had, people think that I have been affiliated with Rory, and I have been with the Wake Up Crew since the start of my career. And I actually left that show twice. I left to go to FM 100. Mm-hmm. And, what an experience that was. So, no, Devin, don't look at me like that. It was a horrific experience. Let me just say that. Because I got a chance to work with Charlie Espina, who, in my opinion, at the time was very, very. She was the real deal at that time, and I got a chance to work with Billy V, who, as much as I give him a hard time, he's a great friend, wonderful guy. And then I went back to I-94 with the Wake Up Crew, and that's where I met Shawnee, and we've been married now 22 years. We've been together 24. Our daughter is starting her senior year in college, and
wow.
So it's been a wonderful ride. But I gotta say that there is nothing that is more humbling than coming to a crossroads where you have lost your voice. You think you've lost your voice. You get fired from your radio job, and it's not easy to stomach that. And I learned, and I was just telling Devin this the other day, that I don't place my value as a broadcaster on some guy who's sitting in an office who has never done radio or is not good at radio.
And that's why he's in the office.
But yeah, exactly. And then they make decisions just based on, they like this person, they don't like this person, whatever. To me, a hack's a hack. There's a lot of hacks out there. And Devin knows. Over the years, he'll say, what do you think of this guy? I'm like, this guy's a hack. What? And they come and go. Mm-hmm. But the ones that have had staying power are the ones that, somebody asks you, you answer honestly. You're not really afraid of hurting anybody's feelings, but at the same time, you're not just being offensive to them for the sake of being offensive. Mm-hmm. And, I'm sure by the time this airs, it's out there. Devin's going to be back. Mm-hmm. I feel it because he's dependable, honest. Politician, but it's gonna happen. When I got let go from Summit Media, I thought, okay, well, I have a law enforcement background. I'll do security or whatever. So I did that for a while, and then Shawnee landed a really good job, and she said, if you I'm law enforcement and security has changed in the decades that I've been away from it.
Sure. And
I had a really rough time because it's not the same. And so she just told me, why don't you just retire? And so I did. I was retired for a couple of 3 months, sitting by my fire pit, drinking Crown Royal every day. And one day the phone rings and it's like, hey, look, we have this opportunity. Do you want to take it? And I'm like, if it was an opportunity to work with Rory again and to kind of give back this time around to the people that really built what the persona of Gregg Hammer is, then yeah, fine. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I'm great with that, and it's been fun. It's been a lot of fun. It has its challenges because I'm also a bivocational pastor. So you can answer that if you want. I know it's your wife going. I know it's your wife going.
It's not.
That guy used to be really handsome. But now he looks like Danny Trejo. But the challenge for me currently is, okay, so how do I, as a man of faith, still go on the radio every day and say the things that we say in the confines of what our show is about and stay true to it?
Yeah. That is that's quite a puzzle.
It is. But you know what? You got to walk it because I think you attract more people when they know you came from somewhere. Mm-hmm. And it's like, okay, bro, I remember him when he was this, and this, but he's not that guy right now. And there are people that have seen me on stage. There are people that have seen some of my stuff on YouTube. And then when some of my sermons hit YouTube, they were like, okay, this is amazing because he can still do the stuff he did on stage, and it's the same, but it's different. Does that make sense? So, that it's a whole other...
Are you more... well, when you do your sermons, I'm
Right.
sure you're still making people laugh.
Oh, sure.
Right?
Because I think there's a great preacher, Wayne Cordero, who always believed that when you make people laugh and their mouth is open, that's when the Holy Spirit can enter. And it's a matter of getting it, from here to here, right? And for me, I mean, without getting into too much detail, I mean, my fall was very far. And, when Jesus captured my heart, it was like, you know what? Okay, I know what this looks like. I know what this looks like. I know what this smells like. I know what it is. I don't want to be that. But I can still do what I do because there's an art to comedy. There's an art to... If you look at somebody, like my mom asked me one time, who are your contemporaries? And I said, well, I got to say, without a doubt, Don Rickles and George Carlin. And if you watch Rickles and Carlin and how they formulated things, I'm sorry.
No.
And how they formulated things, the heart of what they were saying was not the insult. Their heart was pure. Their heart was... If you really watch, and you watch Rickles when he's insulting somebody or whatever the case may be, you know that that's not him. That's kind of like a character. To contrast that, another one of my contemporaries was Andrew Dice Clay. That's where Andrew got lost, and they thought for sure his persona was him.
Yeah.
And he just didn't. He just never got out of that.
Yeah.
But I just saw that when he started stand-up, it was one of his shticks.
Yeah.
And it stuck, so he turned into that character.
Yes,
right?
yes. I saw the same special.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, that was the night I was holding your hand, and you ate all the hot kakimochi out of the popcorn.
Yeah, I remember that
no,
night.
and that's the thing. I think a lot of guys, especially here locally, that sounded so like Coach Price. Here locally, like you look at somebody like Augie.
Yeah.
And Augie is an amazing politician, but he's also not a politician.
Yeah.
Like if you really watch what he says, he cares so much about people.
Yeah.
And just to bring it full circle, there are a lot of people that entered the political arena as a joke, and it didn't end well for them. But then there are those that go in and are a success, and and that's what Augie's doing. And he doesn't need me to say it, but I'm really proud of that guy. I really am, considering that we broke into comedy and radio at about the same time. He was about a year and a half ahead of me.
Yeah.
And but for somebody to come from that and be what he is now, amazing.
Well, let me go back a little bit, because
Okay.
I did think about this, and I know a lot of people that have your talents are asked this question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. When did you discover your comedic talent? Like when you were a kid, were you already imitating people, doing the, get at the dinner table, making your family laugh and stuff? Was it like in you already?
Yes. The biggest boost to that was when I was a young policeman and I would imitate my superiors. And that was it was so I would we had this one, I don't know if he's even still around, but I had this sergeant that he spoke with a really heavy Mexican accent. And there's a difference between a Spanish and a Mexican and a Colombian accent. But I would always do impressions of him. And it would start where midnight shift, the desk sergeant would be there, and I was working in Wahiawa at the time, and the desk sergeant would pick up the phone, Wahiawa police, and I would break into this mock Mexican accent, and I would ask for the guy. I'd be like, dime, is Jose working tonight? And they'd be like, no, he's off duty tonight. Can I leave a message for him? Sure. And I'd be on another phone across the room, and I'm watching the desk sergeant. He grabs a notepad and whatnot. Okay, go ahead. Yeah, can you tell Jose that his burro Pepe passed away this morning? We need him to call us right away to make sure we dispose of the carcass. And he'd write it down. And I'd just start cracking up. And he'd hear me on the phone cracking up. Or we'd bring in.
No, okay, wait. Okay, so real quick.
All right.
So would you go and, do you go and practice that? Because when you say hing,
yes.
Like, I wouldn't even think to, like, how you would even say that. But, like, is that a conscious, like, oh, that's how it's EIN at the end? And,
yeah.
Okay.
Well, it's like, okay, so I grew up in Waipahu at a time when it was still a plantation town.
Yeah.
So everybody spoke different.
Yeah.
Like, you talk to some, especially at the time, predominantly 100% Japanese girls whose family were from Waipahu. They would end their sentence with "yeah." Like they would be like, "Oh, so I gotta go by the prom bids, yeah, and then after that we're gonna rent a limo, yeah," and it's because if you listen to Japanese, they end every sentence with "ne." So that's, and I started picking up on that as a kid. Filipino came easy because both my grandparents spoke with Filipino accent. My grandfather was from La Union. My grandmother was from Cebu. My mom was born in Waianae. She married my father. So I was, raised as a predominantly Filipino household. But at the time, if you weren't full-blooded Filipino, you were kind of looked down. Oh, he's hapa. It wasn't a. I'd be lying if I said it was a tough upbringing. It wasn't tough, but it wasn't easy at the same time, and especially looking the way I did. Like I go to like the bank with my grandpa, and I'd be like, "Oh, that's my grandpa," and people go, "That's your grandpa?" Like they think, here you are, you're this Howley kid, and I'm here, And it was funny because my grandfather had an accent, and he would be like, the bank people would be like, he's not deaf, okay? He speaks with an accent. So they'd be like, "Tell your grandfather." And, "Oh, Grandpa, they said you need collateral." "Well, my cholesterol is about 192. So, it was a challenge, but it wasn't difficult. And I think it made me not, my default was never offense.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Because I think now, especially with the way society is, people get offended, not because they're truly offended, but it's because like, oh, I shouldn't be laughing at this, or I shouldn't think this is funny. We are so fortunate to be in a place where we, to this day, can still talk about, oh, this Portuguese guy, or this Japanese guy, or this Filipino guy, or whatever. I live a good part of the year in the mainland, and it's
different, yeah.
Different.
Do you think part of that, and I'll bring Devon into this, and maybe Kyle?
No, yeah, because he's white. He's the whitest guy here.
No, but like, okay, so in the 90s, right, you had the shock jock. You had the Howard Sterns and and all these guys that were trying to like shock people. Mm-hmm. Do you think this is a response to that? Like, they went too far? Or is it just that society just got really...
What do you think, bro? You're a broadcaster. I'm just a dude.
Not a broadcaster anymore.
What? No, you are. Shut up. You are. We talked about this. I'm going to choke you out in a
second.
No.
That's why I'm glad I'm sitting over here and you're over there. Right? Because I'm really not sure, because it doesn't seem like it was that. Because there's still technically shock jocks, because there's,
Stern is still around.
Yeah.
I mean, I think
the interesting thing was Stern is still around, but even he's mellowed. Like, he doesn't have naked women jumping on his show. Well, maybe he does, but I've never seen them anymore.
Right.
He used to have porn stars.
Of course you haven't.
No, I haven't. But he used to have porn stars all the time.
Yeah.
And he'd have them sitting on that vibrating thing or speaker, and trying to make them, whatever. But now he doesn't do that stuff. Now now everything that he shows, like the clips that you see, are all straight up interviews with really famous people. Right. Where it's always some deep, dark secret that they share with him. But that was always the secret that Howard Stern and I think any, like you were saying, any good broadcaster worth their salt, that's the thing that you want them for. Is because they're the ones who can pull that out.
He got so big, and all his advertisers and sponsors.
Yeah.
Oh, but he never cared. But he never cared about that shit. It's why he kept making so much money. Because
I heard him and Donnie Imus were like me and Devon almost.
Uh-huh.
They were always, butting in. And I heard him. I was listening to the radio in Vegas. I heard him. Donnie Imus had a heart attack or something. He had some kind of health issue. And Stern was like, good for him. He's a dick.
Wow.
And I'm like...
Wow.
And he's like, and he goes, and you could hear him, and there's mic work, but he goes right up to the mic, and he's like, you hear that, Donnie? You're a dick.
Wow.
And I'm like, okay, this is, even for, and me at the time... I think, I was the antithesis, and I don't want to speak for Rory, but we as a couple, we were the antithesis to whatever was going on in the market. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And you know what? I give Rory all the credit for this because he to this day works it and he knows how to work it and the guy knows. Mm-hmm. And he knows his craft. He knows his art. I mean, people say that I'm quick. He is quicker. He is equally as quick as me. And, he actually, there are guys that are still in the market that kind of owe their careers to him because he did a lot to help us get our start. I was just fortunate that, I think in every team, there has to be an antithesis to something. Sorry about that. Right. There has to be an antithesis to something. It's like, you look at the contrast between like our current show and what Devon was doing. It's apples and oranges. Mm-hmm. What I did with Shawnee and Davey D and eventually Wayne Maria at Summit, apples and oranges from what I did when it was Shawnee and Davey and I. Apples and oranges. And then, going back to what we do on Island 98.5, again, that's what we do in that realm. And I think we've got it down to the point where the audience is in on the joke. And that's important. Mm-hmm. The audience got to be in on the joke. And when you're first starting, you have to kind of acknowledge that when you're speaking to your audience. Like I would end every broadcast initially when we were at Summit with, hey, thanks for listening. Thanks for being in on a joke. And I would listen to Devon and Devon was, Devon and whoever his partner was with at the time, Devon is the consummate straight man, good partner, knows what he's doing. Right. And so Devon was just a different, he was I wanted to be the show that parents could feel comfortable, their kids could listen, when I was at Summit. And Devon was also that. But he did it in such a way that audience is so loyal to him as a person that now that he's out, I think his audience is going to be lost for a while. And what they look for in him, they're not going to find at KSSK, or they're not going to find at wherever else. The market has changed, and I think that leaves a huge hole in the market.
Are there still the same amount of radio stations, or is it?
Yeah,
because I feel like they're all still there. Yeah.
It's just that now the staff is so small. I mean, you got like even where Gregg is at, they've got like 5 people working 12 shifts, and people just repeat out, and they're working in the morning, and then they're working in the afternoon, and then they're doing the midday. It's insane, and a lot of it is because of the way the advent of the computer. Like for us, when we first started, it was carts, and you were there. If you had a 5-hour shift, you were there for 5 hours. The computer came up, and we all went, "Oh, this is kind of cool. I can just do my thing, and I can record, and I can leave." Because before, if you wanted to go on vacation or leave, they had somebody like an unpaid intern. When I was an unpaid intern at FM 100, that person would come in, you would record all your stuff on reel to reel, and they would mark down where in the log, because the logs were still paper, they would mark down, okay, play my track here, my track here. And Randy Hudnall would do that all the time, or Bill, whoever, even Gregg. So you'd play what they had. You never got to do that?
No, I know how to do it, but I had people.
but I would be that person that would do that. And then the one day that Randy Hudnall decided, it's a weekend shift, no need worry, and so he just didn't do the recordings. I had to call Bill and go, Bill, I got nothing. And I call Randy Hudnall and I go, Huds, where's that tracks? He goes, nah, bro, you ready? Just go. And I went,
red button and talk.
What? And Bill, to his credit, when I called him, he said, please don't say too much. Just talk about the song ending and talk about the song beginning and get out. And I was like, okay. And then the station didn't blow up and people didn't call and go, why is this Japanese guy on FM 100? Right. And then they were like, oh, okay, I guess we can keep him around.
Well, that's how you got your break on that station.
Yeah, because when I came home from college, my dad told Randy Hudnall, because Randy had worked with him in Kaiser.
You gotta do something for my son.
Exactly what it
He's
was.
troublemaker, I think.
Exactly.
He wants to drive a hybrid. I think he's gonna start kissing boys.
He said, Randy, give my son a job because he's not doing nothing. So Randy said, okay, I'll give him a job where he doesn't actually get paid, but he has to do all this stuff. But I think there's a benefit to that because you get to see how everybody works and you get to process all that stuff. And for us, back then was really the formative years of radio in a very good way because you learned how to work really hard. Well, at least in this
market because across the ocean was a totally different thing.
Yeah.
What was going on over there. Yeah. But he's right. You learn that if you don't love this business, then you don't want to work for free. And a lot of us got our start. I was 2 years in uniform going into the morning show, just as an unpaid intern. I'm sure it was the same for him, but you don't have that anymore. Now you got people that come in. I don't know if they just are friends of somebody or, I don't mean to.
No.
I'm not going to call a spade today, but I mean, somebody comes in. And they're invited in, and if they sound great and all that, and then just by chance they get an offer, then it's like, okay, I'm somebody now. I don't need to learn how to run the computer or push the buttons. I know how to do it. I could do it if I needed to, but the powers that be feel, okay, the dynamic is, Rory he runs the board, and now we got Candace Kay, who she does a lot of the computer work. We had Brandy Machado for a while, and she was doing the computer work, and it's like, Greg, that frees you up to be, and that's what we want. That's what we want from you. And, I think, and I'll speak very freely about it. I think that's something that Devon wasn't really getting towards the last couple of months. The guy is really creative. I know him. He's really creative and all that, but he also cares about his audience enough to know that if something's going to suck, he's not going to present it. Mm-hmm. And if we're going to present it and try it, it's got to not suck. So if you want me to believe in it, you got to believe in it enough to bring it to the table, and let's let it out there, and then we let it simmer, and then if it's good, we'll build on it. But he never got the opportunity to do that towards the end of his thing. And the guy that was his boss is a hack. I'm just going to say it. I love him to death. I love you to death. You know I do. I've watched you fall off chairs. But you're a hack, dude. And when you see good guys like this get the shaft, it's like it hurts. I think it hurts our industry. It was the same thing when I got let go from Summit. My thing was, I'm not going to let some guy that is in a suit but not wearing a tie because his neck is so thick he can't find a tie that fits. I'm not going to put my value as a broadcaster or a comedian or as an entertainer on some guy that's calling me saying, listen, we're going to go a different direction. Like, you don't know me. You obviously don't know this market. So whatever. I think it's great we're parting ways. But
why is radio like that? I don't understand, because even mainland radio is like that.
I think everybody has an opinion. Don't be scared. I think everybody has an opinion. I think it comes down to the almighty dollar.
It does.
Nobody cares. Yeah, nobody cares. I mean, Hawaii is a different animal in a lot of ways, not only in broadcasting, but in entertainment. And I think it's reflective in, say, for example, you have a favorite entertainer, singer, whatever, and they get busted for DUI. Mm-hmm. Or they get popped with a drug charge or whatever. And then, they go to court, they do their thing, whatever the case may be. It doesn't matter. You still think their music is great. You're still going to go watch them at the bars that they play at. It's not going to matter. But mainland, it's like, oh my God, Oh my God, he farted in public. We can't have that, and then it's like, now you're blackballed. It's not like that here. You know what I mean? There are guys in especially in the music industry that have like, I mean,
so many stories over there.
And I don't want to put you on a spot because I know a lot of the same people, but dude, I've played with guys that were on meth. Playing, and you're going like, dude, can you stop licking your lips? I mean, we're doing a show, but yet they still have people that follow them, and that's great, because I think Hawaii, we support people for what their talent is. Does that make sense?
Yeah, sure.
And so you fall a little bit, but we still love you. And if you want us to help you get better in,
right.
then fine.
I think that is a very local Hawaii thing too. It's like, okay, this person's in a rut, but we're here to support.
Right.
Hawaii is always forgiving.
Yes.
And I think it's hard to get canceled here. Like as much as in the mainland.
Sure. I mean, and it does happen.
Yeah.
It does happen. But I think, to coin a phrase in Olelo Hawaii, when you ho'oponopono and you sit down with the person and, hey, look, I'm sorry, whatever the case may be, you got two willing hearts in the same room, and you get a genuine apology, and the person goes, okay, I accept. And then the person that took offense is like, okay, you know what, let's move forward, let's just let this go. There are some people that aren't like that they're just like, no ways, I'm going to, you canceled, bro, and I will continue to make sure that you cancel for the rest of your life. And unfortunately, that's how it is. I mean, like
it's becoming more like that.
Yeah. Like I said earlier, it's the heart of your humor. I think my humor has always been working towards tolerance, because there's a difference between racism and ignorance. Ignorance is more, in my opinion, more prominent than racism is. Racism to me is cut and dry. It is what it is. It's racism is racism. But if you're telling a joke, like say for example, you tell a Portuguese joke, or if I'm doing an Obama impression, I'm not trying to offend, the former president, but I mean, I'm doing his voice and, telling a joke or whatever. And it's not anything I wouldn't say in front of him anyway. And he's never called me and said, can you knock that shit off? He's never. So at some point, it's like, I remember the biggest complaint I got about something like that is we were talking and I said, I think 44 is great. I think he's a great guy. Wonderful human being, good dad, good husband. I'm just not a fan. And I got an email from a lady that just went off on me about, that's, how can you say that, and da-da-da, and I'm like, he's a good guy, but I'm not a fan. There's a lot of good people I'm not a fan of.
Yeah.
I'll have them over my house, we'll have a beer or whatever. Product placement. We'll have a beer or whatever, and we'll talk. If we have differences, we'll talk it out, but at the end, we hug, and it's, we still do our thing. You know what I mean? But and now in today's world, you don't get that. It's like, I'm offended because this, and there's too many Karens and there's too many Camerons in the world.
It's like
is Cameron the?
Is that what it is?
No, it is. And I see that because it was like
we always needed a middleman.
We got
and it was and then I was gonna say Trent, but I think we know a guy named Trent. Yeah, and he's a good singer too, but he's not a singer, but he's a friend, a mutual friend. So I used to do that in my act. I used to be like, there's Karen and there's Trent, but I kind of, Trent, you're cool. But it's like, so now it's Karen and Cameron, and Cameron is, I do this character, Rich Whiteman. And Rich Whiteman is like the owner of the company. He's a colonizer through and through. And his heart is just like, well, we need to help some of these local people. He's like one of those laughing howly guys, right? And it's funny because the heart of it is not, I'm not trying to, pick out one person or one type of person. What I'm merely saying is these people exist. So let's all say, okay, these type of people exist. I don't gotta like you, but the book I read every day says I gotta love you. So how can I love you without liking you? Like, I love Devon. Like him? I mean, he could pick up a lunch tab every now and then.
Yeah.
You know what? No. I'm kidding.
Next time.
Yeah, sure.
When I get a job.
Yeah. No, you have a job. I'm pretty sure he's living in the bushes right now. But yeah, and I think, like you're in the clothing business. I mean, there are people that might find a design of yours or something offensive, but people buy them. The people that the people that like it will buy it, and they'll say, well, I don't care if you don't like it. I like it, so I'm going to use them. And those people, I think, are the gutsiest people in the world. And we need to be gutsy. We need to be able to, accept that we're not the same, but we have to live in a world where we have to accept that people are not the same. You know what I mean? I don't have to like you. I don't have to like your lifestyle. I don't have to like what you do for a living, but I have to love you. So how do I do that? How do I do that with, working in the confines of, if you don't want to talk to me because you don't want to love me back, okay, porch lights on, knock on my door anytime.
Yeah.
But I'm going to avoid you in the mall, And I think based on some of the impressions, like we talked about this earlier, some of the impressions that I've done over the years may have rubbed some local celebrities the wrong way. But it's never been from a place of meanness. And I can always face them with the confidence that, look, I'm a fan. That's why I do an impression of you.
Yeah. It's a little bit of a tip of the cap, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I'm speaking specifically about, like, and I've been faulted for this, but, honestly, Robert Casimiro I think he is by far, I weep when I hear his voice. I heard him play and sing at a funeral for a dear friend, and I cried my ass off. And he has always been, one of my first albums that I ever bought at, I can't even remember the name of the store. It was a little record store in Waipahu, but was Waikiki, My Castle by the Sea. That was my first, and I was like, this guy is stinking amazing. And how many times, since then, I have found myself dancing to Teve Teve when I'm by myself in my underwear.
Yeah.
Just an amazing guy. And yeah, I do parody and lampoon a lot of people, but at the same time, I think we need to expose ourselves. I think we need to expose ourselves. We need to expose the younger generations to people like that have come before us. Because Melvin's still around, but there's no Melvin anymore. You know what I mean? It's not like, there's no when Carol. Exactly. When Carol was doing it, Carol Kai was doing it. There's no Carol Kai anymore. Frank De Lima said karaoke was the death of live Waikiki shows, and I think there's some truth to that. But even I talk to Andy as often as I can, Andy Bumatai as often as I can. But it's not like it was when we were growing up, and I think it's time we start, exposing. It's so hard, such a hard word to say with it. It's time we start exposing some of these people to the younger generations, because they can then feel a lot of the same joy that we feel when, we see old videos of them. My daughter has watched Raps Hawai.
I was just about to bring up Rap Rapinger.
Over and over and over. So and she loves it.
Yeah.
And it's like, rap was gone for at least 2 decades before she was even exposed to that. And then a lot of stuff that I was doing, she never even knew I put out 2 albums. And when she actually heard my stuff, she was like, "Wow, that's a lot like Rap Replinger." And I said, that was the standard for me. That was my standard, was rap, and it was. He was just amazing. Same with Andy. I think Andy, for what he achieved when he was at his peak, and then to take it to the mainland and do like what he did. A lot of people don't know. They think he just disappeared, dropped off the map. But he was a working comic in California for
Hollywood,
a long time. Yeah. I think he did.
I remember in the 80s on VH1 they had a comedy show.
He came up,
and I used to watch him all the time because I love stand-up comedy. And one day I'm like, that's Andy Bumatai.
Yeah.
It was interesting to see his his brand of comedy changed too to adapt to mainland.
Right. And I think he accepted that. And I'm sure you guys get it too. Well, maybe not John and not Devon, but I'm sure when you go to the mainland, you're in LAX and they think you're Mexican or Spanish. I get it all. I had a TSA lady. I'm not making this up. I had a TSA lady, as the circular X-ray thing was brand new then. So I get in and she says in the worst high school Spanish, "Levántate las manos, señor." And I'm like, I didn't want to say nothing, and I said, "Okay, see, it's like the high enough." But it's and I think when Andy went, he did a great job of bringing what he did here to there. Yeah, because Hawaii is a rock. I mean, it's at the time it was even worse. But you look at local people that have had great careers in mainstream. I mean, Yvonne Elliman. There's no Yvonne Elliman anymore. She's around somewhere, and she's had her issues. But there's no Yvonne Elliman. There's no Andy. All that era of what we grew up with and how much joy it brought us. You don't have that anymore.
Well, there's an element of showmanship, I think, too, that people don't realize takes a while to sort of to develop. So
Right.
you watch Robert when he gets up there. He's telling stories.
Yeah.
It's not even about really the songs.
Exactly.
He's so engaging as a performer. When James Taylor was here for his concert, John and I went, and I was marveling that the lights go down. Usually there's pyro and videos and all kinds. No, James Taylor just walks out. There's this old guy walking across the stage. He's wearing a hat, kind of tips his hat, and he sits down. Just starts playing.
Yesterday morning,
Yeah.
they let me know you were gone.
I saw
That's
him.
all you need.
Yeah, I saw
that's all you
him
need.
at an amphitheater, an outdoor amphitheater last summer, and he made it feel like we were in a cozy little nightclub.
Yeah.
I mean, he worked the crowd, and that's the feel that every day was May Day whenever I would see the brothers cast. And to this day, when I think of Melvin Lead, I think of that Paniolo Country album that I would listen to, and had the little skips and crackles and going back to Paniolo Country and May Day when I would have to dance Paniolo Country in like 4th, 5th grade. Well, I don't want to age Melvin, but when I was senior in high school. But yeah, I mean, you don't have that anymore.
Yeah, and on stage they just don't perform the same way. There's a couple people out there, like I think Dua Lipa puts a really good show. Pink puts on a really good show, but a lot of artists nowadays, they don't really put that much time into it. There's more into the flash than there is the actual music and making that work and creating that. And that's another thing too with the radio thing. The part of what we do or the part of what we learn to do is you learn to work the crowd.
Right.
Like you can, if you put either of us in a room with 400 people, right? Within 10 seconds of walking out on stage, you know which area you talk to, who you need to ignore, how you're going to reach these people. And you have to do all of that in a very, very fast time, right? Because if you don't, they're going to eat you.
True.
True. But I learned that through working at FM 100, through watching you do your thing, through watching Bill do his thing, because that connection needs to be immediate. They need to like you immediately, and there's not, and the same thing needs to happen when you're on the air. And what's happening not only on the air and radio, but also in TV, is they're getting kids out of school and they're going, oh, okay, here. Go.
How many followers you have? How many followers you have on whatever?
It's not about that connection that
you're not
you make
developing
anymore.
anything.
Yeah, and so it's hard because I'm like, well, I know they can track a show for 5 hours.
Sure.
But can I trust you to put you on stage in front of people and you're not going to piss everybody off? Or
can you work a gas station opening?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Can you be out there for 3 hours in the sun, not get pissed off, and still treat people nicely and pose for pictures and all that? At a gas station opening, or
7-Eleven.
Exactly.
I did a lot of those.
Yeah. I mean, I remember my first one was me and Augie. I believe it was at a gas station opening, and there was a little mini mart there, and it was a 70s theme.
Oh my!
And my clothes were already outdated, so I just went as I was, and Augie had a big old afro, which you can't even do anymore.
Yeah.
Augie had a big old afro and a silk shirt and bell-bottom pants, and we made it work.
Yeah.
But now it's like you can't even. I mean, you can't even, like, if it's a 70s theme, you're going to a 70s theme party. You can't even have a big afro anymore. I mean, which is, I get it, and I agree with it to some extent, but at the same time, what's the heart of it?
I think it's all about intent too.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what it comes down to. But
sure.
A lot of people just dig deeper into it.
Yeah.
And make it more than it actually is.
Right.
And
The default has become offense.
exactly.
Yeah. But it's like you said, we grew up. Everybody make fun of everybody, and you just kind of go with it, right? But there's an underlying affection for these people,
Right.
that comes through. I think it's why when Kyle and I were doing the Lisa Matsumoto shows, right? My first role was a Filipino woman,
And you were the P, right? At one point, or you were the Iso peanut. And I remember you having to tan.
Anyway, but in that show I had to do a Filipino accent, and
dress in drag.
And it was horrible. I just want you to know the dress was nice. I mean, I got a little turned on, but the accent needed work.
But the part about it that was interesting was, at the time, I mean, it was 95. At the time, nobody questioned that I did a Filipino accent. Nobody said, "Oh my God, this is so offending. This is so offensive to me."
Right.
And it was because I I wasn't trying to be offensive. I was taking what I had heard, like you, right?
Right.
We took what we had around us at the time, and my father worked for Ben Cayetano.
Right.
You go to his headquarters, and that's all you got is Nana and Tata, and
he's forgiving. Ben's another one. He hated my guts.
Oh, man. I bet. Yeah, I bet.
He hated
I can only imagine.
I would always, whenever I'd say, because I not only would Ben is a lovely guy. He's a great guy.
Which Ben are we talking about?
No, I mean this. Every interaction I've had with Ben, he's always been so gracious to me. However, when I would do my Ben Cayetano impression, it was so out of left field because he doesn't have an accent.
Yeah, he doesn't.
And mine was always, "Oh, how are you, boy? Yeah, you tell your granddad, vote for me." It was always something like that. Yeah. And he heard it. And I, as gracious as he was, I have pictures where I have selfies of me and him somewhere, and I've got my arm around him, and I'm all, happy. And you can see he's smiling, but his upper lip is quivering like, if I get a chance to poke knife one day, it's over. I'm shanking this fool. You know what I mean? Where, like, he's telling his wife, Manang Vicky, go get my knife. And Vicky as well. Whenever I would do a Vicky Cayetano, like, because I always do them in pairs, right? Yeah. Whenever I would do... where I'm doing a parody of Ben and Vicky always had a Chinese accent. Mm-hmm. She doesn't.
Yeah. Right.
Not at all. She's a wonderful person too. But I think where the offense came in was not Ben and Vicky, but it was other people going, "Oh, Governor, did you hear that?"
Yeah. That's how it usually goes now.
Yeah. Exactly.
It's called comedy, everybody.
Yeah. And honestly, if I tell Devon all the time, if I had a pocket full of rats' asses, I wouldn't give any to anybody. I don't care. I don't care. It's like, I have an opinion. They will never ask me to host or speak at the Hokus ever again, because the first year I did it, whoever was the writer,
you MC the Hokus.
No. You got to go and present.
Oh, okay.
And I think, does Billy still have the lock on that?
Probably.
Dina Hoku, Hana Awards. Yeah, I don't, I think he probably still has a lock on that. But the first year I went, the guy who wrote the intros and liners and all that, he wrote for people that he didn't know, which is difficult because he only knows you from what he hears on the radio or sees on TV. And he wrote me absolute garbage. Like, it was like, in a reggae accent, you got to say this, right? They had like cue cards, I guess they were. Mm-hmm. And I was like, who wrote this garbage? I actually said that. And he was not It was not very happy. But they invited me back the next year. And I was by myself that year, and I went up and I said, thank you very much. I'll be presenting for, I think it was Best New Artist. And I said, and I want to thank, from the bottom of my heart, I want to thank Hara for making me one of 5 Filipinos in this room that isn't carrying a tray. And that was like, everybody, the audience just went crazy, like laughing and all that. But I was never invited back again. I think because of that.
You did the Ricky Gervais thing. That's why.
Yeah, I just started because you know what? At some point, I don't have time to. I don't have the time to
screen every joke and
write my comedy or my write my satire or come off the top of my head and think, oh, this guy's gonna get offended by it, so I shouldn't say it because he's gonna get offended by it, and he's gonna convince 5 of his friends that's offensive, and then those 5 friends are gonna talk to him. He's gonna talk to somebody that never even heard of me, and he's gonna say, "Oh, that guy's offensive."
Have you been doing stand-up at all?
I haven't. You know what? No, I haven't. As a matter of fact, the last time I did stand-up was 1998.
Wow.
That's the last time I did it.
Do you miss it?
No. Because it's just, right now, it's just too hard. Because you're going to go into a room and you're going to tell your jokes, and somebody in there, like, I don't care about hecklers. Hecklers are one thing, but I just don't like the people that everybody is a comic. Everybody is a critic as well. So, I don't have the time to, like, I'm not going to sit here and explain the joke to you.
Yeah. Within this year, I've seen a swing, though, in comedy. Yeah. Especially since the roast of Tom Brady.
Right. It's coming back.
It came back. And you got Matt Rife doing this kind of things, too. So, I mean, it came back to, like, not being so uptight about listening to these things that you perceive offensive anymore,
Sure. And I think what is happening, and this might be wishful thinking, but I think what is happening is the fact that people are realizing that, you know what, funny is funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, it might be offensive, but it's still funny.
Yeah.
Now, if I am laughing at something that someone else finds offensive, does that make me wrong? I don't think so. Because, like, for me, I think, I think farts are funny. You know what I mean? There are other people that don't. But if you're sitting in a room and somebody blasts one, especially if there's a group of guys, you will not hear one guy in that room go, "Oh my God, that's so offensive." But now if you're in mixed company, oh my God.
Well, it depends on the smell too. If the smells really
bad,
any kind of
that's it. But see, what makes I knew we were going to go down this road. What makes a good fart? Sound, cadence, and smell.
Presentation is
yes. Yeah. And especially if you have the windows rolled up, and you're with a bunch of your friends, and you're just out for having a good time, and you got the windows on lock. It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun.
Well, Greg, I got to get to this last question because we're running out of time.
What?
I know it goes by quick.
Before we run out of time,
told me 3
thank you for the donuts that you brought.
Pervade donuts, man. If you never had one, you don't know what you're missing because they're
very
awesome.
They're very good.
Unicorn Butts Pervade, thank you very much.
Yes.
Really
okay. So before we go,
yes.
we're technically a music channel, so we have a music question.
Okay.
If you're stranded on a desert island for the rest of time, and you could only listen to 3 albums for eternity, what would those 3 albums be?
Okay. And I'm not kissing up. Waikiki, My Castle by the Sea. First and foremost. Second would be Steve Miller Band's Greatest Hits, the first one, not the crappy one. Wow.
Not the crappy one.
Not the and I have a country music playlist when I drive to see my daughter. It's got Johnny Cash. It's got got all kinds. So I would say it would be that country music playlist. That particular one. No, because it's all country music, but it's like it's deep. If I say Hoyt Axton, you ain't gonna know who the hell I'm talking about.
Hoyt Axton
Please.
I do.
Name
I don't listen
Hoyt.
to him.
Well, there you go.
I mean, I don't listen to him, but I know who Hoyt Axton is.
Turn in red.
Come on.
I don't know who.
Turn in red like he just had one Asahi. You know what I mean?
Well, thanks, man. Thanks for coming. We're gonna have you back. We're just getting started.
Well, you know what? I'll tell you
part
what.
2 soon when you
Okay,
get back
I
in
was
town.
I was telling Devon when he said, "Hey, it's going to take about 3 hours to do this thing." I was like, "Okay, if I can get the guys together, then why don't we do a music one?"
Oh, okay.
If I can get my guys together, and we'll practice a little bit, and I think it would be a lot of fun, and then they can tell, on the road stories about
Is some of your
me.
music on YouTube?
Some of the stuff, yeah. Some of the stuff from my time at Dave & Buster's is on there. So you can go to youtube.com. Just search up Gregg Hammer. There's a couple of Gregg Hammers. One of them is like a...
Yeah, I did look last night. There's other Gregg Hammers.
Yes,
yeah.
There's other Gregg Hammers.
So it's not that Gregg Hammer. It's the one that is... I mean,
well, when
a lot of my
pulled it up
downloads-
and it was a Caucasian male.
Yes.
I said, this
I'm
is
glad
probably
you
not
say
the
that.
same guy.
Well,
What
we
was
say
your band
howdy
called?
guy. What was my band called? The Gregg Hammer Band.
Okay.
Yeah, so I mean, if you look up Gregg Hammer Band and all
Like
that...
Dave Matthews.
Very original.
Yeah. I saw Dave Matthews. Don't waste your money. You like Dave Matthews?
Well, I have a long story about that, but we have to go.
Okay.
We'll go. We'll get off and I'll tell you.
Thanks, man.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.